everybody. My name's Tim Shepler at Big Ship 79 on Twitter, and a couple of my buddies here. We're gonna start a new podcast about the cards, and just hopefully talk knowledgeable and insightful about baseball and trading card collecting altogether. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Ben Wilson.
Hello, boys. How are we?
Doing well. And Stefan, how do you say your last name, sir? Make sure I get that right.
It's Loeffler. Hard German name.
Nice.
Sounded like you had to think about that one for a second.
Well, no, because I wanted to run through like the easiest way to remember how to say it, but I didn't want to be like overly pedantic. And my brain just switched the signals.
Well, you are a Twins fan, so I mean, that has to be something about your level of intelligence.
You're wearing an A's hat, sir.
I'm only wearing an A's hat because they're playing the Royals, and Tim decided to wear his Royals hat.
My shirt tonight. I picked out this one just specifically for you, where it says World Series champions.
Right now, but it's going to be on camera.
Your shirt, but yeah, the shirt from when last time they won a World Series is probably a little small if you have one still.
It's a schmedium, actually.
Child's schmedium.
Child's schmedium. Yeah, now I wear a man's, XX plus size.
Oh man, this is gonna be great. So the real big first topic I wanted to bring up. We're all kind of team or set, collectors and player collectors, and a big release checklist got released yesterday in Top Series 2, and exciting to see 350 cards come out for a base set. I'm one of those guys that loves to to build and make and put that set together. But my biggest peeve was I saw something on there from Brent, and he said, "Hey, there's two short prints that are in the set. Card 698 and 699 for late call up. 698 is normally going to be Ryan Sheriff, and 699 Drew Smiley, but there's going to be a short print variation, 698 Ronald Acuna and 699 Gleyber Torres. How do you guys feel about two of the younger stars in the game getting kind of short printed like they did Harper in 12?
My first thought is they should have stayed, waited for update. I understand this whole late call-up thing, and you're trying to literally force them into a product. We've seen Topps flagship in years past do the short print thing, but it's usually a legend. You'll have, Derek Jeter actively with a Ricky Henderson short print, same numbered, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can see. I'm not a big fan of it personally, but I can at least appreciate that a little bit. With this, it's gonna force a lot of collectors to be confused, and I don't know how short printed these are gonna be, but I just see it driving up the prices of Series 2 at the retail level, and to me, it's just completely unnecessary. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of short prints to begin with. So I'm a little biased and jaded, but it just seems like on this one it's extremely forced compared to years past.
Yeah, same here. I agree with what Ben was saying, where in years past they'd have normal player, and then as an alternate for that card number, same style design, but a quote unquote legend on the card. I don't know that I'd say Ricky Henderson, but
who would you say? Paul Molitor? Kirby Puckett. We're not going to get into the semantics of whether or not Kirby Puckett should or shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame right now, but go ahead with your thoughts on the short prints.
But it's just one of those that they obviously should have waited for update. But Topps has that idea that the manufactured scarcity is good for the hobby, and why MLB lets them get away with it, I don't know. And maybe that has something to do with why they haven't immediately renewed their license with Topps, their exclusive license that runs up in 2020. Because didn't they renew it like a year into the last contract?
They announced it with like 3 years left on the contract, if I remember. There was a large amount of time left,
right.
If I'm mistaken. It wasn't something that needed to happen. Because I remember at least, locally with some of my friends where it's like, hey, hopefully Panini or somebody can hop back in for a competitive market. because literally Topps has this monopoly on one sport. I mean, that's the whole purpose of exclusivity. But the issue it's like within a 12-month window, you would have liked to have seen, Panini or Leaf or somebody jump in and create at least an oligopoly, which would allow, two or more, still small, finite number of makers. I mean, I would have no problem with that, but yeah, it just seems like Topps and MLB just hopped right back into bed, extending it to 2020, I believe.
Yep, 2020.
And I think what happened was it was a handful of years, before it expired, but they also did it, I think, at the National. So, with that coming up, maybe that's when they're going to make the announcement 2 years out, or 18 months out, whatever it happens to be. I looked on Blowout, and a jumbo I think is $135. They had $134.99, and then a hobby was like $70. With Shohei in there. I think that it's somebody on Twitter, and I don't remember who it was but brought it up is, well, maybe sales of Series 2 in the last few years have been down. And I started thinking about it. And when you go into your local card shop, or you go online, or even if you go to retail, you do see a lot of Series 2, like in repacks or left on the shelf or discounted more often than you do Series 1 or Update, especially Update. I mean, you look back, some of the Update sets in the last handful of years, like 11, now is exploding with all the guys that are in there. The worst being Hosmer and Moustakas. As a Royals fan, but you have Rizzo in there, Altuve, some guy named Mike Trout. In 2008, I bought that set for like $30 2 years ago, and the big card was Kershaw. Now Scherzer's in there, and his base rookie is going for like $50 at Update. So, I think they thought, well, we'll put these guys in here to draw some more people to Series 2, and we still have enough guys for Update to cover that excitement, because that always pops. It's just frustrating though, because these two guys are ones that should be involved in the set and have a regular card, and they're just not. And if you're a kid and you want an Acuna, and this is the one card that you normally could afford for your collection as wanting a rookie card, and it's the rookie card you'd want that's not an autograph, it's gonna be hard to get. It's frustrating. And then they'll have their factory set versions, but it's just not the same as the pack pulled or the regular hobby edition. Just frustrating to me.
Do we know yet? Because I personally haven't done enough research on this particular. Is this going to have their Topps Cup on it? I mean, is this their first official?
It's going to have the rookie. Yeah, as far as I understand, it's going to have the rookie logo.
Yeah, as far as the checklist goes, it does say rookie right next to them, so I would presume that it would have the RC logo. However, this is Topps we're talking about, so. And to what you were saying, I know that their lead time is way more than when the season starts for Series 2. They're practically working on it right as Series 1 launches. However, it would be nice to see them have a little bit of that upper deck consistency where you don't have a card produced until you play a game in the majors.
No, I agree. Just as an A's fan, I've noticed, last couple of years on Series 2, this year, Brandon Moss, who came over in the offseason and spent a handful of days before being released. He's part of the Series 2 checklist. Last year is Alejandro Diaza. I'm sure if we went team by team and compared year over year, there's probably a lot of Series 2 question marks. Like, this guy didn't spend a lot of time with the team. So, to Tim's point about the lead time when they start to process this checklist and build it, it makes sense, but it's unfortunate for the collector. I forget which year it was. I think it was 2012 or maybe it was 2011, that all the relics, it was Brad Peacock and Gio Gonzalez as an A's fan, and it's like, these guys are all long gone. They're out the door. So I'm collecting a whole series of guys that are no longer with the team. Literally, I think 70% of that checklist had already been traded by June or released.
Yeah, I just looked and it's funny that Torres and Acuna also are going to have rookie autographs, but in Target only packs. So they're most likely probably stickers. I think, sure. But if they're on card, like, I don't know. Again, just one of those things that, we'll see what comes out next week. I'm going to be their Huckleberry. I'm going to go down. I'm going to buy my box of jumbo and open it on my lunch and, put my set together and hopefully, grab one of those guys if I'm lucky enough, or two. Hopefully they're not super extinct. I can go and pick up to put in my set. I was looking through my 12 set the other night, and I have a harp in my my 661 in 2012 is a Harper from a factory set, and I went about the second version because the pack pulled version you can't really get, and if you can, you might as well go buy a Mickey Mantle.
Yep.
The next big thing is that I thought was awesome was first day on Finest, the Shohei Ohtani Superfractor got pulled in my hometown, in Wichita, Kansas, which I thought was pretty cool. Shop I've not been to, but Ryan Cracknell put a good story out today. He interviewed the guy, and he said he set the card down, and after he kind of lost his mind, when I had a smoke to calm himself down to think about it. And it's funny though, because not as many people I think would bust Finest on day one as Bowman, and plus now I think how much Bowman's been gone through, and no one still's come up with the Ohtani Superfractor. And is it like the mystery of the Evan Longoria Superfractor that never really ever appeared?
See, the first assumption, and it would be a false assumption, would be, I mean, hypothetically, there's three of us. If you pulled it, how long would it take from, I pulled it right now, I'm holding it in my hand, fresh out of a pack. How long would it take for you to want to go onto social media and announce that you have that? I'll be honest, I wouldn't be going on their first day. I might let you guys know personally off of social media, hey, I got this in my hand. Keep it on the hush, because I'd probably want to contact, a lawyer, put it into a trust, something that would protect it, because I'm not selling it on eBay, not with the way that eBay, allows buyers to get away with literally robbery with their policies nowadays. It would take me a while. I'm not suggesting that somebody has it and hasn't announced it, but it's possible.
It definitely is possible. I mean, to be honest, it'd probably take me about 10 seconds, because when I pulled that Mark McGwire orange card, I got really excited for you. And legitimately opened the pack, didn't even look at the other cards, put that one down, took a picture, and sent it. I'd want people to know. And then I would have probably, with Blowout's offer, I would have, said, hey, listen, let's talk, and found a lawyer friend of mine and said, hey, listen, I need you to represent me in this. And what's going to be your fee, and let's figure this out, because I mean I love cards, and that's a cool card to have, but it's just one card, and I can go buy a whole bunch more cards, or I can do stuff in my house, or I can go on a trip or whatever for what somebody would offer me for that. So
see, you gave me the McGwire, which is probably a $50 to $70 card at auction, and talking about a $50 to $70 card and trading it or selling it is completely different than this Superfractor potentially could buy you and your wife a house, period. I mean, we're talking about stupid money here. And yeah, you'd want to protect yourself. But even if I was an Angels fan, I would have a severely, I mean, it would be very hard for me not to want to sell it. I'm assuming that he was my guy on the A's. I'm a big Cespedes collector from back in the day when he was with the A's. But if I had pulled a 2012 Superfractor, you're talking six figures, I'm sorry, I would sleep with it under my pillow for a night or two to say I did, and it would be gone. I mean, you're talking about life-changing money. I don't know what the finest Superfractor potentially might sell for, but based on Bowman prices, with some of the colored autos being in the 30, 40 grand at release, I'd imagine that Superfractor's got to fetch, what, 50, 60,000 on the low end? I mean, are we?
Yeah, I think the original listing was 65K or best offer, but then he brought it down, and I don't know what he brought it down to, because they couldn't do an instant payment on eBay for that amount. So he brought it down a little bit, but I didn't see what the price was.
So assuming it was 50 grand, I mean, the three of us, just being, hardworking type, blue collar, what would 50 grand do for us? I mean,
I can still do quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the process of a refi, pulling money out to redo my house. I mean, that doubles what I'm anticipating. I mean, that's a heck of a down payment on a new house. I mean, that would get you. out of debt in some cases, depending on how you wanted to spend that money. Even if you wanted to say, I can't spend this on anything other than cards, think about that. I was joking about buying a 1952 Mickey Mantle with my refi money, and the cheapest one I could find on eBay right now is going for just under $7,000. Yeah. You're talking about trading a Shohei Ohtani Topps Finest, which was printed like last week, so to speak, and you could probably get a graded 52 Mantle, 52 Mays, 52 Robinson, 51 Bowman Mantle, possibly a Babe Ruth, and probably still have some money to spare.
Well, if I could only spend it on cards, to be honest, what I would do is I would fly to Cleveland to the National and have a good time. That'd be my goal. Because I've never been. I want to go so bad, and I'd probably have to bring somebody with me to watch me.
My hands right.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it would have. Yeah, we would have gotten a nice hotel, but we would have shared a bed.
Yeah, but what do you think?
We would have had to do like Dumb and Dumber with the big, heart-shaped spa.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why do you think the wife usually goes with me to the big show?
that could be just as bad because she collects cards. See, Tim and I couldn't go to be each other's watchman because
I would say yes a lot. Yeah, that's a good deal. You should do that. You should buy those 50 McGuire Topps rookie 85 USA cards. Buy them all.
Yeah, your wife's 8 states away. What's it matter? It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
That's correct. Hey, real quick, I just want to let you know I saw Teammates had a stack of 85 Topps McGuires around $7 the other day.
For $7 each?
Yeah, the top one was $7, and there were like 4 or 5 underneath. I didn't look at them because I was in a hurry, but I know you probably need a few more.
Yeah, if you're in the neighborhood in the next couple of days, swing in there, and I'll shoot you the PayPal money for whatever it is.
Okay. All right.
If you still have them. Assuming you're right at about $7 a piece. I don't really want to go too much higher.
I wouldn't buy them for more than that.
Yeah. I don't need any more, but, imagine what this refinance could do if I just spent it on McGuire's.
Yeah, well, for $5, that's not a bad deal. I was in there when he had Brian Topps rookies in there for $5 a piece, and I spent like $50 one day. So, I mean, I felt pretty good about it. He always has good prices on singles, so.
I was talking to my wife when I started collecting, because I had one McGuire, and it was in my 85 Topps set, and when I went through and cataloged all my A's cards, I didn't put that in there. And I'm like, I know I've got one, so I went and found it, and it's sitting on my desk right in front of me. And then I was like, I should probably buy a second one to go with my 85 Topps A's team set. And then I bought another one and another one. It's hard to pass up for $5-6 a piece, And before I know it, I've got 30 of them. And only a true card collector can understand why you would have that many. Because she's like, why would you have that many of the same card? And it's like, because, think about the 6 or 7-year-old at the time who, when you're talking about 1987, and I know, Tim, that's about the same time you got into card collecting. For some of us on this podcast, they weren't even born until 1987. But, that was probably a $50-$60 card easy at that time. So to be able to buy them for $5-6 a piece, so I'm $100, maybe $150 deep into that particular card, but it's kind of cool. It's my way of reliving what I couldn't afford, 30 years ago.
Yeah, it was untouchable. It was an untouchable card, especially when he started the home run chase. And when I picked my first one up a couple years ago, and I think I have 2 or 3 now, and I paid around $5, $6, $7 for them. So,
well, I remember being a kid, and I got a creased Robin Yount 75 mini, and I got a really good deal on it. I was a kid, probably 12 or so at the time, and we probably got it for about $25. And I remember when I got the George Brett 75, the standard size, a couple years back for, I think, $15. I was so excited because I was like, dude, the Brett and the Yount were so expensive as a kid that you just couldn't touch them on. It was a different era. So to say a $50 card now, how many of those do we have in our respective collections? Probably quite a few, in that $40 to $70 range, at least a lot more than when we were kids, where the Brett and the Younts from '75 were not necessarily untouchable, but we weren't going to be doing that on our lawnmower money.
Yeah, that's true. I bought my first one at from Chris Wells, the guy that puts the show together, in October of 2012. And he sold it to me for $35. And since then, I've added 6 more standard, and I have 3 minis. The last one I bought was at the show for $10. And I asked the guy, it said $10. He goes, yeah, you're a George Brett fan. That was where my throwback jersey. And he sold it to me for $10, and I looked and I thought it was a crease, a gum stain, wax. I didn't care for $10. I was buying it.
Yeah.
No, it's in better shape than the one I paid like $25 or $30 for. And I'd have 100 of them if I could. I probably have 587 tops, Brett's.
Yeah, I just passed over. I was just looking through my card database because we were talking about Acuna and Torres and the short prints. I wanted to look up a McGuire. But yeah, I'm at 28 85s, and I just on the 87 I just cleared 100. I've got 105 right now in my personal collection for no other reason than to say I have them, much to the chagrin of the wife. So no, but there was a point I wanted to touch on when we were talking about Acuna and Torres. I don't often overpay for cards. I know the A's market extremely well. Rarely am I off. It's usually on like Bowman color cards. Those are usually the ones that get me because it's always hard to gauge what that price range is going to be. But last year I blew it on the short print McGuire from Topps Update. I paid $20 first day because it's McGuire, and he typically sells for probably about 7% higher than your average legend. He still has quite a big market, but $20, and then a week later they're selling for about $7. And so who knows with the Acuna and the Torres. Coming from a educational aspect of me having an economics degree, I'm all about something called false market, and I think you're going to see that extremely. It's not really going to be supply versus demand. You're going to have a false market. People are just going to gobble these up so quick when they hit eBay, assuming that they're going to appreciate over time. That I think, at the outset, that first week window, we're going to see a false market for both of those cards, unless they're readily available, like Topps Update, where the short prints were rather common. They weren't super short printed.
Well, and to that, do you see Topps doing what they've done in years past, where in Update they have the same card printed again?
What do you mean the same card printed again?
The quote-unquote short printed inserted as a regular Update card.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that's only going to confuse people even more so.
It'll be interesting to see, honestly, with these two, whether or not they have a traditional Topps Update card as well. I think that's really, we're going to have to wait till October to really see what the ultimate market for the short prints from Series 2 are going to be. Because if they both have a base card, and these cards aren't super short printed, and they're readily available if you're willing to pay for it. I guess that really comes down to going on eBay a couple of days in, and if there's 20 plus of each of them listed, regardless of the price, then they're readily available. Is whether or not you want to pay the price.
Right.
And that goes back to Tim's point about if you're Atlanta Braves fan or Yankees fan, and you're 11 years old. And you're excited because the new guy's up, and you're not going to be able to afford their first real card, not including the Topps Nows and the Topps Livings. But I think we'll have to wait till October to see if they've got a regular base card, and then whether or not that one has a Topps Cup too. Yeah, we put past Topps just to throw them out there a second time. Honestly,
going back to it, talking about their first Topps, I'm not a huge go out and collect the guys, first Bowman auto or first rookie auto, anything like that. It's nice if I have one, if I pull it, but I've only, the only ones I really have are for the Giants and the A's, or Giants and the A's, the Giants and the Royals. Sorry, I saw your hat there. but I do like to have, the stars, first Topps rookie card. I think it's it's kind of cool to look back and, most of the Hall of Famers, I'm trying to get their first Topps rookie card. And, I think Reggie's the oldest one I have at this point, but working forward to grabbing some of the stars today. And if Acuna takes off or Torres takes off like they could be, it's going to be, really crappy because you're just like, it's just now like trying to grab one of their, their first Bowman autos, or it's going to be a card that, yeah, awesome. It has some value to it because they just didn't make enough of them or very many of them. But at the same time, it kind of takes away from the collecting portion of it. It more goes back to being a money-based or value-based hobby at that point. And I guess that's just not where I am with the way I collect. But
And there's been a hot topic in a hobby recently, and I know Ryan Cracknell of Beckett was going to put a list together. I haven't seen if he was going to, about the falsities of the hobby. I for one am very vocal about some of the things that irritate me. I think we all are. We all have our negative moments, and he mentioned that there's quote unquote a lot of things ruining the hobby. He's seen a lot of negativity, and I'm sure, again, I'm guilty of having mentioned some, whether it's us complaining about eBay 101s or these false markets created for cards, or Topps Nows and Topps Livings literally just printing money like they're Data from the Goonies in the basement, where he's like, $50 bill, we have the money to save Topps. There's a lot of issues in the hobby. And I know all three of us at heart are team collectors, player collectors, set collectors, vintage collectors. That's probably why we get along so well. And there is room for the other side of it as well that aren't necessarily us, the guys that are rip and flip. Heck, that's how we get a lot of our cards. I respect people that open up, because I haven't opened up a real box. I mean, maybe I think my wife bought me a box of Series 1 a couple years ago just for like Father's Day. But the flip and ripper, or the rip and flip guys, those are my best friends. That's how I amass my PC.
Yeah, and I don't, last year, the last few years is when I've really cut down on my box purchasing. Really, I buy a box of, because I want to open some packs. And I'm going to build the set anyway. Now I've gone to Brent, and I love Brent, and I'll buy, complete sets that he's collated and sends, because he's got a great value. And if you're going to do that, that's the guy to go to. He's going to show up right. It's going to show up protected, and you're going to get the best price on the internet.
Yeah, real quick. That's Brent Williams you're referring to.
Yeah.
Brent and Becca, for those that might be listening that aren't familiar with Brent. If you are a team collector, set collector, Brent is a great guy, gives you good prices. And breaks all the major products. So sorry, cut you off.
Oh no, that's all right. And so I'll buy a jumbo Series 1, 2, and update, build my set out of there, and I always buy my team sets for him, for the Royals, for the Giants, and really I'm doing the Giants for my son, because I have a feeling that if he ever does collect or gets into sports and he likes baseball, it's going to be the Giants, because that's going to be a local team. I'd never let him be an A's fan, and that just goes back to my dislike of the A's from the late '80s, when the Royals would finish in second place and the A's would win because they had a better team, and we missed out on the playoffs a lot. And wild card back then, who knows how many World Series Brett would have. But it's one of those things. I think the number
we're looking for is 0. But go ahead.
No, and so I love opening those packs, and I kind of lost my train of thought there a little bit talking about how awesome Brent is, but
you mean Mike Schmidt? Are we talking about the good third baseman?
No, I was just talking about Brent Williams, how awesome he is, and
okay, I thought you were still talking about George Brett
opening packs. No, it's okay, and building the sets and doing those things, and that's why I get my excitement out there, and kind of lead us into the next topic I want to talk about was the Topps Now. And the Throwback Thursday, which I haven't really ever paid attention to until today, and they actually had all the superstars in the one day, which it's going to be interesting to see what it was for today, because you had Trout, Harper, I think
Machado.
Machado, yeah. There's all 6 guys were pretty good. I think Lindor was one of them, and then also the Living. And the Living set's a good idea. I like it. I like what it does. And I've been picking off the rookies, and I made the mistake. I went to Topps and I bought one direct, the first one, and then I found them on eBay because people were buying them in the 3-lot sets, and then they're turning and selling them for cheaper than what you can buy the one card individually for, but they're still making money off of it from buying the 3-card set. And so, I've been picking up just the rookies, for like $4.95, I think is what I've been paying for them. Just because I think it's a neat thing. And the only Topps Now cards I've ever collected were, there were 2 on the day that I got married, back in 2016. There was a Giants and a Royals one, weirdly enough, that day, and
awesome.
one of them was a Posey, so I bought both of those. And the other one was with the day my son was born, and Jake Junis had a decent game, and actually ended up buying a ball from the Royals from that same game. It's not a pitch he threw; didn't have one of those, but I have I have a ball from that game, the actual game, that same day. But I know that Ben, you do a lot with that, with the A's stuff and adding those to your collection. Now, I know the tops now like $10 a piece. They ship them for free. They come really nicely protected, and the card's a cool stock. It has a nice thick like gloss to it. It's a sharp look, but and I think you've done some of the Throwback Thursdays. What are your thoughts on those products and what Topps is doing there?
Just for anybody listening, if you haven't had a chance to enjoy the Throwback Thursday, this particular week is set 17. It's a 1977 baseball design, which kind of redrafts the players. For instance, Mike Trout's part of it. He would have went number 1 in the 2018 redraft. Harper, Aaron Judge, Chris Bryant, Mookie Betts, Francisco Lindor, Carlos Correa, Manny Machado round out this week's. It's a little bit bigger. It's an 8-card set. Typically, week after week, the Throwback Thursdays only features 6 cards. It's always a different design. It could be an old hockey design, football design. One week I believe they had an Olympic one even towards the start of this year. That was actually set 6. It was released back in February when the Olympics were running. I like the Topps Now. It's interesting. It's kind of funny. I find myself watching an A's game late in the game. They were playing Tampa Bay last week, I believe, and it ended up being 1-0 in 12 innings or 13 innings. I'm just watching this game, rooting for the A's, thinking, man, if the A's win on a walk-off, it's going to cost me $5 tomorrow, because Topps Now is going to feature that walk-off. And I was actually surprised that Tampa Bay won in the top half of the inning. The A's weren't able to tie it or win, and it wasn't because it wasn't technically a walk-off. I agree with what you said. I love the stock. I think it's a really nice product. They are well packaged if you buy directly from Topps, but $10 a pop shipped, especially as a Yankee fan. Last year it was like the Aaron Judge show every day. Aaron Judge smiled.
He hit a home run.
Aaron Judge looked over at this teammate, and then he looked over at that teammate. Let's have 6 cards today. He hit a home run and he high-fived 21 people, so let's have a 21-card set. It was stupid. I really felt bad for Yankees fans last year, and I think Torres is going to be the same this year. So it's kind of nice for the three of us being fans of the Royals and Twins and A's respectively. But I buy them all on the secondary market from anywhere from about 5 1/4 is what I spend on average. So you're getting 2 for 1 essentially.
Yeah, because that's where the Topps offers a discount if you buy in bulk. So you have some of these resellers going in, right, and buying 30, I think. Yeah, and then they turn around, they're able to get them a lower price and flip them to you. Because I know Brent Williams has been stocking away the Topps Living set. And he has a couple they're only like 2,900 printed, and he has like some of the only ones available on eBay for like 150 for like a Nick Markakis, because no one bought it.
The Topps, I'm in a couple of Facebook groups, and Topps Living has been a hot topic off and on over the last week or so. People not understanding what it is, that it's the never-ending set for anybody out there listening. If you're not familiar with it, the idea is they're releasing 3 cards per week, and once they're gone, they're gone. The print run will be limited to the orders. So obviously we saw Acuna, I think, set the record for like 46,000. Torres this week, I believe, was around 26,000. I want to say somewhere in there. And once they're gone, they're gone. So the problem with a lot of these people in these Facebook groups are they're just now finding out about it. And, we're, what, 8-9 weeks in now, I believe, somewhere in there, or maybe more. And to go back and get those first few, the big names, the Judge and the Harper and Jeter, it's going to cost you some money. There's going to be 156 cards per year. If you're looking at average of $7, you're looking at just under $1,000. I think it's like $780 is what it would cost you to buy them individually through Topps. So it's an expensive set, but I've gotten the Matt Olson one so far. I'm still waiting on the Ricky Henderson. They look sharp. I mean, they are a nice looking set. I on one hand, and then on the other hand, on one hand, I wish I would have put the set together because it is 1953 Topps. At least right now. Who knows in 2019 if they change the year. But on the other hand, it's like there's a finite amount of money in the budget, and I can't justify spending $780 to have a Nick Markakis and a Joe Panic. I don't personally need those. I'd rather spend them on A's cards. But for anybody that's able to put that set together, it's going to be an awesome looking set, I think.
Yeah, so that's I like that they improved upon the Topps Now idea with that set, in that it takes everything that it did right. Here's your top player. Here it is in a limited run set. Great design. However, unlike last year's Judge-a-thon, the player only gets issued once. Correct. Unless they change teams.
Whereas Topps, it'd be interesting. Do you guys think they'll do like a Topps traded? Like let's hypothetically say Aaron Judge, who's already been issued, let's say he ends up with the Red Sox next week. Do you think they'll do a Topps traded, even though 1953 Topps never had that?
Yep.
I don't. I think they would wait. I don't think that they would go back in the same year if they've released one of the guys to add somebody else. I think they would wait until the following year, and probably I have a feeling that they might change up the design. I hope they don't, year to year, but I think they'd wait till the next year to release them the new uniform.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I just think it'd be unfair if say that happens. Why you're limiting your collecting? I mean, the only ones I've purchased that I've made an effort to is they have one Royal, and it was Alex Gordon I picked up. And I'm going to pick up one of each of the rookies, and just because it's the rookie year, and those are the cards everybody always looks for. I haven't picked up the Panic, and I don't know if I'm going to. But it's one of those things. Like, it's cool, it's neat, I like it. If I had unlimited funds, for sure,
yeah,
I'd be in it. But it's one of those things. Like, I have other stuff I'm wanting to build. Like, I'd much rather go out and build or buy some 77 or 74 commons that I need for my set, and put those in there. So
here's an interesting question, because we're on a topic, and I just threw out the Aaron Judge to the Red Sox hypothetically. So this week's release was Eric Sogard, Christian Villanueva, but it's Manny Machado is the highlight. He's the header. Okay, so we're currently at June 7th. We're roughly 7-8 weeks away from the trade deadline, the non-waiver deadline. You'd have to think somebody's going to snag Machado. If the Orioles make him available, a contender is going to try to go for it. And so let's go out on a short limb and say Machado's traded. Now, the odds of that team re-signing him is, 50-50 at best. I mean, it's probably unlikely unless one of the big market teams, such as the Yankees, got him where they've got, resources that are different than, let's say, if the Arizona Diamondbacks trade for him. It's obviously a 2-month rental, and that's it. I would think Topps Living would print him on the new team. We'll go ahead and call it the Diamondbacks for argument's sake. And then if he signs with the Yankees in the offseason, you would have to think that he's going to be one of the first releases. And so Manny Machado very well could have 3 Topps Living cards with 3 separate teams within 6-month window.
Yeah, it's possible. I think the thing, though, you look and kind of see how the checklist has gone. They're kind of just picking and choosing. Like, Sogard's a weird one if you're going to pick a Brewer. Like, I think they would have picked Yelich, right? I mean, or Braun, or I think does Arcia have one? I'm not sure. Like he might have been one of the guys. I mean, Sogard's just kind of an odd one to pick, and I think sometimes they're doing that because they know it's going to end up being quote a short print, like the Nick Markakis. Because why would he have been one of the first, I think 6 or 9 cards that came out?
Yeah, Markakis was card number 6, so he was part of the second set. Sogard is the first Milwaukee Brewer.
Featured, so it's just kind of weird, like, but why him? You think that if they were going to do only a handful of these a year, that you would. I mean, not every week needs to be the team's best player, but probably one of the top 3 or 4 players. And Sogard's a MLB or he's a good player, but he's not one of the top 3 or 4 Brewers this year. I mean, they're having a heck of a season. I think that it's just kind of odd. I think they're just doing that because they know that he won't sell. And if I'm the gambling guy and I would go buy the, a couple of the Sogard cards and wait till only 2,000 of them sell. And then your $7 investment now is a 30 or 40 or 50 or even $100 card because that one guy's bill, the lowest number is only the number of sets there. So the Markakis right now, I think is the lowest, like 29 something. And so that's the max number of sets that ever is going to be able to be made because that's the most they ever made of that one card.
You're right. He is the lowest at 2678.
26, yeah, I knew it was somewhere in there. It was under 3,000. And so that tells you right there that that's as many sets as in the entire history of this collection. That's as many, the max number of sets they're going to be able to make. The other thing I kind of wanted to, just to move on here, I have a couple topics I wanted to hit on our first show, was Beckett Grading. They announced they're going to suspend their 10-day grading service because they're overwhelmed and overworked. And it's surprising to me because if you're a person in the market and you have this awesome thing that all these people want to spend their money on, and they're flying in to see you, they're overnighting cards to you, you're asking for mass submissions from LCSs and breakers to send these cards to you, and you can't handle the workload. I put it out there to Sports Card Radio because everybody knows that Colin and Ryan they don't hold anything back. And if you've ever listened to those guys, and I love to listen to them. I don't always agree with them or their tactics, but they think differently than I do, and I love to have other people in my life that come from a different angle. And Colin came back and said something to the effect that they need to find out a better way. They need to crowdsource this or get computer technology that does this, that can do this better and more efficient for them. Because what's going to happen is they're going to, when they do things like this, the people spending the money and they're paying good premiums for it, they're not going to come back because they're going to say, you can't provide me the service, I'm out. And the service will dry up and it will go to somebody else, or I know PSA hasn't been as quick either, but at some point in time, they either need to figure it out and get more people or find a better way to do it. I just want to know what your thoughts were on that. I don't grade a lot of cards. I like to buy graded cards because I usually can buy them for a lot cheaper when they come back a 9.5 instead of a 10. And Walking Dead, he the best thing he ever told me was sell 10s, buy 9s. So that's been one of my favorite things to do. Hey, I'm good with the 9. You can have that 10 all day, and I'll make my money from you. Thanks.
So just so we know, I'm not one to hold back opinions because there's no skin in the game. I'm not an investor with Topps, so my only skin in the game is my personal collection. When it comes to grading, I'm not a big fan of grading. I have very few, a couple Mickey Mantles, one 1985 McGuire. That's probably the extent. I'm considering buying a 1909 Eddie Plank for the personal collection, which would be the premium card in my collection. But the issue we're living in goes beyond trading cards. It's the whole instant access, right? My daughter asked me, hey, I'm going to Google a word. No, get the dictionary and look it up. You're more likely to remember it if you put in hard work. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, everything is on our phone, right? I mean, we don't have to go in to everything that's on our phone. We know that anything we need is right there in our pocket on our cell phone. So you kind of have two things at work. One is we're all expecting a quick return because we're able to get a quick return on everything. This is no longer the days of dial-up or preceding that with like pagers and whatnot. So yeah, I pulled a Shohei Ohtani. I want it graded, and I want it graded now. Second off is the quick turn. The first, penguin in the water is the one that gets eaten. if I pull the Shohei Ohtani today, I need it to get graded into market before the next one does to maximize my return. I mean, that's just the simple. The second one's going to sell for probably 10% less, at least in theory. It doesn't always hold true. Sometimes it's the opposite. But more often than not, that second one, you start to see a residual decline as they start to depreciate in value, especially as more populate. So if I pull one today, I want it back as soon as possible. It's the same problem with redemptions. By the time you get it, Strasburg's been injured, and now he's on the shelf for a year with Tommy John. His rookie auto is no longer worth the thousands. Now it's worth hundreds at best. Yeah, it's to me, you're going to lose a lot of business because it's not the three of us that are grading cards that drives their business. It's the rip and flip people that are looking for that quick return on their their equity.
Yep. And see, I'm also not a grader. I'll take one if I have to. It's kind of one of my biggest conundrums right now, in that I have the pinnacle of my Twins collection, the 55 Topps Killebrew, but it's graded. I can't put it in a binder next to the rest of the cards, and now there's a slot missing.
Exactly.
Yep.
But I have one. So
right.
I'm not gonna turn down picking up a card just because it's graded. However, I don't even think I've ever submitted one, maybe one or two. But at the same time, I mean, if Beckett's looking to hire, I live in Dallas. And I understand that they only have so few people working there. I've been to their headquarters. They have a card show every 6 months or so, every year or something like that, where everybody gets to come into the Beckett main headquarters. And I've seen what they go through, and I've heard stories from plenty of people that live in the Dallas area that, they're overworked. And if that's their solution for getting all of the stuff that's on the backlog turned out, I mean, it sucks for the collector and the flipper type that is going to suffer business. But at the same time, that's kind of the nature of the beast. You got to deal with what they can put out.
Well, my thing is, though, that I mentioned is that they've also authenticated facsimile autos.
Oh yeah.
So that's my concern, is like, how does that happen when hey, that Year Bowman Chrome has facsimile autos on the base Chrome cards. How do you authenticate that and that gets through? So there's some things there. I mean, gradings, either you love it or you don't. I think there's no real super middle ground on it. I think we're all three in the same thing. Like I'm building a little small PC of PSA Bretts in the 9, and I have most of them, and my 75 is a 7, and that's just because a 9 was like 10 times as much, and I was okay with a 7, for the price, and I just it was kind of something small to put together and fun to work on. I just want to know if you guys got excited about the draft this week, and who your team. My team decided to take a whole bunch of pitchers with all those first day picks we had. I think we had 6, and we went 4 righties and 2 lefties, and we finally took some outfielders. And I think that one of the most interesting picks was Ben's team taking a Heisman candidate, number 9 overall.
Well, and they say that he's planning on playing for Oklahoma this year. It's Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma, yep.
And then he'll play baseball in the spring. Now, his first love is baseball. Who knows whether or not he'll be able to be the next Baker Mayfield, who he's replacing there. With $4 to $8 million in possible guarantees on the table from the A's. First off, no matter which team had selected him, you would imagine they've done their homework. The A's know whether or not they're going to be able to sign him. They know, they feel confident that they're going to be able to bring him in. Does money talk? Does he have what kind of prospect he is at the NFL level? I don't know. it is interesting, but based on everything I've seen and read, his upside is enormous on the baseball field. So it really comes down.
Yeah,
to,
I play.
go ahead.
Oh, ahead.
I
I was just gonna say I play. I'll stop.
No, it wouldn't be the first time, and we saw, I mean, John Elway chose football over baseball. Russell Wilson chose football, and then you have Drew Henson, who kind of chose football after he sucked in baseball for 6 years. So who knows? It's
you have
tough.
the reversing Chris Winkie.
Yeah, well, Brandon Whedon's another one that spent some time in the Dodgers organization. Was a new kid that is a Pittsburgh Pirate. I think he's like a 25-year-old rookie now because he had spent some time playing college football, and so it's tough to say. Yeah, hopefully the A's did their due diligence because I'm an A's fan, but this is where I get a little. I've got some Austin Beck cards from last year. And the A's have a long history of trading away first-round picks. We've seen it with Addison Russell. We've seen it with Billy McKinney, who both went to the Cubs in the Jeff Samardzija trade, the deadline back in 2014. Jamal Weeks, Grant Green before that. Long history of your first-round pick for the A's. Enjoy your next team because you're probably not going to make the big league club. So it's tough, as an A's fan. And then it's like, okay, well, do I get his first Bowman auto? Because I don't really want to pay $35 for the auto of a kid that's probably going to end up playing for the Phillies someday.
Yeah. Well, I play a lot of dynasty football, and I always kind of look at the next couple years picks because we get super intense on it. And Kyler Murray's name is not one of the quarterbacks that floats to the top. And not saying anything about being a heightist, but he's 5'11", I think, at the tallest.
Right.
And he's slight of build. I mean, he's good size for a baseball player and an outfielder. I think he's under 200 pounds, and that doesn't bode well for an NFL quarterback. And if you can play baseball, you can play a lot longer. And he's already got $4.5-5 million, I think, guaranteed based on his draft slot. Where the A's took him. I think that's a smart move for him to go play football this year, see what it's like, but then sign that money to get that money from the A's, and and see what baseball has to offer too. I was just kind of disappointed. I was excited about the Royals' first pick. They got a guy named Brady Singer. I think he was a projected top 10 pick at Florida pitcher. Who knows how these guys turn out, but they got him at 18, and they had a whole bunch of other picks. But the thing that I've started to look back through 2010, all these draft picks, and if you're a first round pick, you got a pretty good chance of being an all-star. But you also have a really good chance of being a bust and having Tommy John and never ever making it. We have Mark Appel, who was guaranteed to be an all-star and a starter, an ace for the Astros, and they passed up Chris Bryant for him, and they didn't end up dumping him for a whole bunch of players for Ken Giles, who now is just sitting in their bullpen. Then they took Brady Aiken #1, and he didn't even sign with them. And they got a comp pick and they took Alex Bregman, so they're probably pretty happy that he didn't sign, because then Aiken went out and tore up his arm the following spring, and ended up getting drafted by the Indians, and I don't think he's pitched in a year and a half.
Well, Appel's retired now, although I've heard that he's talking about possibly trying to make a comeback, because he's only probably 25, 26 now.
Yeah, because he played his full 4 years in college and he got drafted in 14. So, he's probably 26, 28, somewhere in that range.
27.
Yeah.
So you have, there's a guy that Stefan likes to give me a hard time about, which is Todd Van Poppel, the biggest A's bust of all time. But, Van Poppel came back with Detroit and then ended up making a second tour with Oakland and had a decent career out of the bullpen. Not great, not top pick worthy, of course, but he was serviceable.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of cool if Mark Appel can work his way back, maybe end up in a bullpen for 5-6 seasons. Look at what Matt Bush has been through.
If Matt Bush can make it back, anybody can make it back. The dude was in prison.
Yeah, he was in prison, and only one team wanted to sign him, and that was Texas, and they stuck him in the bullpen, and he's been a good part of their bullpen. Good for him. Hopefully, he stays on the straight and narrow and can Appel do it? Yeah, he's got more talent than Matt Bush does as a pitcher, that's for sure. And he's got to get out of his head.
Yeah, I would just think real quick if they'd taken Bryant 1 and then ended up with, you can't always figure it out. Like if they drafted Aiken and he doesn't sign, they still get Bregman, and they have Altuve, and then they have Carlos Correa. That team, I mean, they're already good, but holy moly.
There was an article that I read the other day. I don't know if it was on Bleacher Report or ESPN, but it said that teams really are only trying to get 1 to 2 players out of each draft. If they can get 1 solid player out of a draft, then that's a success. If they get 2, then they're ecstatic. And with the amount of rounds there are, you're just like, that's it? Really?
There were 1,200 players drafted this week.
Yeah, it's like you're talking about teams being happy collectively. If they get 30 to 60 major league players out of 1,200, I mean, I'd like to consider myself a little bit of a mathematician. Those aren't good statistics.
It's not like other sports where you're drafting 3, 4, 5 guys each year.
I mean, you look at the Saints. Look at how bad the Saints were on defense 2 seasons ago. And their draft last year was just ridiculous. The players, and they had 5 or 6 guys that legitimately, with Kamara and Lattimore, and I mean, their talent level. I mean, you're talking about 6 guys on a roster of 53. And only shooting up 46. I mean, 6 guys.
Well, their first, I think, 4 picks all started all season for them because Ramczyk, the tackle, was their second first rounder, and he played right and left tackle all year. And then they had Trey Hendricks, who I think was their 4th or 5th pick in the draft, and he was a great backup reserve on defense. They had a really good deal. I mean, it's crazy when you look at some of these names in the baseball first round and like, how did that guy not make it? I mean, baseball is really tough to break through, and if you do, you can play for a long time, even if you're mediocre. I mean, these guys, but sometimes either the fire is not there, or they were, I go back to that movie with Clint Eastwood and Justin Timberlake where they're scouting the kid and he's got the hole in his swing.
Trouble
and Trouble with the Curve, and the Braves take him, and the dishwasher kid is striking him out left and right, some free agent, because this big power hitter, he looks awesome, but there's something about him that he can't hit, and that's scary. One of the last two last topics I want to talk about real quick. Have you guys voted in the ML All-Star voting, or how do you feel about that?
No.
Fan vote? No.
No.
Not a voter.
Yeah, I just saw. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as a kid, that was the coolest thing. I used to go to a lot of A's games as a kid. My aunt suffered from epilepsy, and used to teach a lot of the local sheriff's departments and things, because she was actually arrested one time for having an epileptic attack. She was having a seizure, and the cops thought she was drunk.
Oh.
And so she actually taught the sheriff's departments how to identify the difference between somebody having a seizure versus somebody who's just, had a little bit too much alcohol. So she got a lot of A's tickets as a result of saying thanks. That's really how I became an A's fan.
Don't they just leave A's tickets like on the street though in Oakland? You could just go by and pick them up and go to the game.
They do now. Back then, we're talking mid to late 80s. There was a lot more support for that team. Plus, Mount Davis hadn't been
erected.
Built. So the
worst erection in Oakland history.
Yeah. I don't get sewage issues back then.
I thought the joke was that you left your car door open with your A's tickets on the dashboard. Someone broke in and left 2 more.
Yeah,
that's exactly the case. Yeah, and so to make a long story longer, I spent a lot of time in the summers of '87, '88, and that's when the A's had nothing but all-stars, top to bottom. And I remember, you'd grab 30 ballots and you just sit there for the first 5 innings poking the. This was before hanging chads, too. So, and it was just like, you're going down line Steinbach, and then we hit McGuire, and then Phillips and Lansford and Weiss and Canseco and Baylor and Parker, and then you get to the next one, and then we'd always have one that was like, okay, who's honestly the best catcher in baseball right now? Okay, McGuire is the best first baseman, but George Brett's still playing, and Kirby Puckett, and So maybe you went with one that was your favorite players, not necessarily your A's, but your favorite players, and then you went one that you thought was how it should be, and then like the other 28 were nothing but all A's. And then my cousin was doing it, and my uncle, and you remember, years ago when you saw it in basketball too with Yao Ming, that you had a heavy Japanese contingency with Ichiro, Yao Ming, that would just Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, popular players abroad, a lot of ballot stuffing, and now I think 30 a day per email or whatever.
You get 5 a day, 35 max. In the Dan Le Batard of the Dan Le Batard show, which is whatever. I can't stand half the guys on ESPN anymore, and he's one of them, but he's not as bad as Stephen A. Different subject, whole long story there, but
obviously you watch because you're about to reference what he did or said.
Well, no, because it's been everywhere. But he's pushing for Lewis Brinson to get an All-Star appearance as a starter, hitting 161, and you know what, the kid, 23-year-old rookie playing for a terrible team down in Miami, and he comes out, and it's got to be embarrassing for him. He's not having a great season, and everybody sees it, and then this guy mouths off. And, Lou Brinson comes out and says, hey, don't vote for me. Vote for JT Realmuto, the catcher, or vote for Starlin Castro. They deserve to be there. Like that's if I'm the player, I'm embarrassed because it's like, hey, you're pointing at I'm having a bad season, yet I'm on the All-Star ballot because, at the beginning of the year when they were printed, they knew he was going to start and be a good player. And it just, to me, it's mean and mean-spirited. And, I don't vote anymore. I used to steal all the ballots, and that's when my friends and I would do fake drafts. Basically, we do fantasy leagues without knowing it. We do dice baseball, and we'd use those as our cards of players available because the internet didn't exist.
As a sidestep, you guys remember a couple years ago when MLB.com was doing Face of Baseball, and you could tweet like up to 25 times a day, and it was like it'd be like Ryan Braun would represent the Brewers, and it was Buster Posey the Giants, and they're in the bracket together, and then you have a 24-hour window.
Oh yeah,
and you know who went to the finals? I think Mike Trout ended up winning, if I'm not mistaken, and he went up against Eric Sogard of the A's. Why?
That's right.
Because hashtag nerd baseball, hashtag face of MLB, and it was a joke because you can make fun of the A's fans all you want about it being a poor market or not a lot of support, but man, the Twitter guys came out in droves, and they got Eric Sogard, and he was knocking off big name players, and it's like at the time I think we still had Cespedes and Donaldson, so he wasn't even anywhere near the face of the team.
Well, just like the Topps living.
Yeah, he just represented the blue collar, the nerd. He was the guy with the glasses, and it to me that goes to show why I don't vote for the All-Star game, because we were able to overcome this massive uphill climb to almost make Eric Sogard represent the face of baseball.
Well, so now, and I just shared it in our private hangout, but I know a few years back, everybody was voting on the Royal player just to troll the MLB voting category. And I know in hockey they did that with John Scott as well. However, ballot stuffing has always been a thing. I just sent a link from Wikipedia about the 1957 Reds fans pulling the exact same shit, where they submitted a ton of ballots. A newspaper even printed out a pre-voted ballot, submitting, Ed Bailey, Johnny Temple, Roy McMillan, Don Hoke, Frank Robinson in his rookie year, Gus Bell, and Wally Post.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Non-Reds player who was voted to start was Cardinal first baseman Stan Musial.
Well, yeah, he's a pretty good one.
Well, yeah, of course.
How many times did we see Ripken beyond his prime? Jeter got there despite the fact that I got my own personal issues with Jeter, but he didn't.
Ozzie Smith and Wade Boggs, Ryan Sandberg.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter. I mean, Tracy McGrady missed 18 seasons of his 15-year career, and he was getting every year. He was winning by stupid amounts, And it's like, all right, so there's 10 open spots to be voted for, and we know Yao Ming, McGrady, and Carter are going to get 3 of them. Doesn't matter if they're playing it. You know, when you leave it into the fans, I mean, there's no perfect system. If the players did it, you'd have a couple players that are questionable as well, and then you'd have like the Barry Bonds type backlash. There would be players that deserve all-star bids that would not get them because they're not popular players amongst their peers.
Yeah.
You know, so then, you know, coaches are going to go for their guys, you know.
Yeah, like Vogelsong when he got in, when Boch was the manager.
Yeah, the Red Sox under Francona a couple years ago, he like put like 5 of his reserves on there because they were his guys, and it's like, dude, are you kidding me? So it's one from each team, and then the rest are just your guys.
Yeah. Well, the last topic I had tonight, I kind of stole from the guys at Mojo Break. I was listening to their show, The Hive, which is fun, and you know they talk about some big things and a lot of breaking and you know new things and right as of to now type things. But the biggest thing they had was, and they're huge Niner fans, was Dwight Clark passed this week from ALS, and you know probably played one of the most memorable plays in NFL history, one that's especially our era that we see over and over and over again. I mean, when it happened, I was like 3 years old, and but it's one of those things that you know when somebody says the catch, you know what they're talking about. But people using RIP or using RIP in headers on eBay selling his cards within 4 hours of his death.
Right.
You know, to me that's just gross, and one of those things you don't need to do. You don't put RIP when you have a Babe Ruth card you're selling. You know, they said, and I agree. The only time you're allowed to put RIP in a header when you're selling on eBay is when you have a RIP card from Allen and Ginter, right? I think it's the only allowed time.
Sure.
And even you know that's fine, but I just want to know what you guys' thoughts were. I mean, do you ever go and when someone passes and look to buy their cards, or when you see those, what are your thoughts?
Personally, if I didn't want their card yesterday, I don't want it today. Red Show and Dice passed away today.
Yep.
You know, he rest in peace. He was the oldest living Hall of Famer at 95. He was an ambassador. He had very strong opinions on certain players in the steroid era, and he had very strong opinions on players getting in versus the Veterans Committee. He and Richie Ashburn, I believe, was another one that was a big advocate, basically denying guys. If you didn't get in the first time, you're not getting in the second time was their stance. You know, Dwight Clark, you know, we want to thoughts and condolences for what that's worth. I mean, you know, for a lot of people that's hollow, but you know, he was an ambassador for the 49ers, for the NFL. You know, for Tim and I being right outside the Bay Area, he was a big personality. I had an opportunity to meet him when I had a coffee shop. You know, he came and bought a cup of coffee, and he was very generous with his time. But yeah, it's poor taste. I remember walking into Hollywood Video many years ago, right after Heath Ledger passed away. And as soon as you walked in, there was this big display of every movie that they had for sale. And I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? The guy, his body's not even cold, and you're trying to capitalize on his death by pushing his movies. And it's like, if I really want to watch one of his movies, whether it's to rent or to buy, I can seek them out. You don't need to throw it in my face. If there's a false market for Dwight Clark cards now because he passed away, unfortunately, let me find them. But using code words and, you know, wow and rare and eBay 101, and yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that on a later podcast and our thoughts there.
You're going down dark deep hole.
You know, I would much rather block a seller that stoops to that level just to make a quick buck. I mean, come on, it's Dwight Clark. There was probably not a big following anyway, not that that matters, but putting RIP's probably not going to add that much to, you know.
If you're gonna sell his card right after he dies, hey, that's fine. You just put Dwight Clark rookie card. Here you go, and you're probably gonna make 20% more than you did the day before or 3 weeks later, because it spurred somebody to go on and be like, you know what? Yeah, I did like Dwight Clark. I want a rookie card of his in my collection. There are those collectors that kind of forget about certain people till they die. I remember I worked at Best Buy, and I worked there, and I ran our media department when Michael Jackson died. And people came in droves and bought CDs. Like, we don't sell CDs, but they came in and were buying droves of Michael Jackson CDs, and we sold out that day. And I didn't do anything different. They're over there under under J for Jackson, and it's like they were here yesterday. They're going to be here in 2 days when I get another shipment. Like, why are you? It didn't make any sense to me. But
I have two sides of the coin for that. One, when Adam West unfortunately passed away, about 6 months to a year prior, he was at one of the Dallas Comic Cons with Burt Ward at the same time, and I think there are autos. Naturally, Adam West charged more. However, we brought in a die-cast Batman card that had been in the family for generations, and had them both sign it. Adam West on his side of the Batmobile car on the dashboard, with Burt Ward on the opposite side. Gorgeous looking piece. I'll shoot you guys a picture and I'll post it on Twitter when I get back into Dallas. But when he passed, I was curious to see how fast that would pop up on eBay, because much like Tatooine and Mos Eisley, there's not really a more wretched hub of villainy than there is on eBay with scummy sellers like that. And within an hour or two of the it breaking, there were people on there. Adam West, R.I.P. 19 whatever to 20 whenever. But at the same time, I went into a store, card shop here in Arlington, that when Harmon Killebrew passed, he announced about a week prior that he was entering hospice and refusing care. And I knew that he
was a Royal Great, right? You remember that? He was a Kansas City Royal Great.
Well, actually, he played for all, at least was on payroll for all three of our teams, but that's another side story. But I knew that they had a signed bat. And literally, as I was being rung up for the bat, 125, I think, something like that. They had a TV on the showroom floor with ESPN on repeat. And right as they signed it, breaking news, Harmon Killebrew has passed. And the vendor goes, well, I suppose I should have charged you more for this now, huh? Like, well, that's a good way to get me not to come back here.
Right.
And you already rang up my credit card, so I'll take a bag and bye.
Yeah, the bat's now $4.50 if you want to buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what I would have asked them. All right, so we're at $1.25 right now. So you're saying that Killebrew's now passed away. God bless his soul, and prayers to his family. How much would you charge me? Are we looking at a 200% markup, 300%? What arbitrary figure do you think you're going to pull out of your ass because now this man has died?
Yeah.
Where do you determine market value, which is an arbitrary thing to begin with? It's like you want to charge me more. Cool. Okay. Pull a number out of your ass as I'm walking out the door with my credit card in hand. Good luck selling it to the next sucker. It's like, yeah, okay. If player X, take any one of a guy that we may have a lot of cards of sitting around. He gets traded to I capitalized on Giancarlo Stanton. I had a refractor from his rookie year from Topps Chrome that I happened to find right after he got traded to the Yankees, put up on eBay and sold for $75, turned around and bought a bunch of A's stuff with it.
Yeah, but that's different from, that's just him getting traded. That's not him passing away. Right. I did the same last year with Judge when he started hitting all those home runs. And then I did that with a Bryant. I pulled him as a redemption. Awesome, great lifetime pulls, awesome cards. But I saw I could do a lot more with it for my collection than that. But it's different when they get traded or they retire versus when they pass away, I think.
When Jose Fernandez had his unfortunate accident, I forget which Twitter follower I have, but all of a sudden he was like a team collector of not the Marlins. And next thing I know, he's like, oh, give me all your Jose Fernandez cards. And it's like, I'm going to start a PC of Fernandez. It's like,
no, you don't.
Why?
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden, now that he's passed away, does he strike a fancy with you. Why now? Why not yesterday? To me, that I considered blocking him or unfollowing him because it's poor taste.
Yeah, there were some guys that offered me after Ventura died. Oh, hey, I have some of his Bowman Chrome autos, and I have a bunch of cards of Giordano. You're a Royce fan. He's dead, so do you want him, right? And it's like I have the cards so far I have of him, and I'll pick some up later. And I was lucky enough to pull his first Bowman Refractor once out of a box, and I was happy with it. But it's like, I was like, I was devastated that day. I mean, he was going to be awesome for us, and this even made me more sad is that his best friend passed away almost the same way when Oscar Tavares died in the car wreck. I mean, they were like almost brothers. And to me, it just is gross and makes me sick. If you're going to sell it, put it up there and just sell it. That's fine. Do what you want. It's yours to sell, but you don't need to add that in the title. You don't need to profit from someone passing. I think that's the worst thing. But cards aren't as bad as autographs and memorabilia. People, those guys are dark, dirty, and that's a huge reason why. I don't collect that stuff unless I get it in person from someone, because if I get it in person, I'm most likely not going to sell it, or I'm going to give it to somebody because that's their guy.
What I was going to ask relatedly, what do you think about where? Running off the previous example, the 1957 Reds. But in your listing, you put, well, this player's dead, this player's dead, this player's dead, this player never signs, this player's dead, this player's dead in the listing.
Again, all right. Now, we all have different interests outside of just trading cards, for instance, right? Some of us collect memorabilia, not just the three of us, but as an overall hobby. A lot of our hobbies, our good friend Eric is a big comic book guy. So we all have diverse hobbies. If I'm going to go on there and look for a 1957 Reds program or All-Star Ballot or anything, it's a very niche market inside a niche market inside a niche market, right? You got to like baseball, you got to like the Reds, and you got to like memorabilia, and then you got to like vintage. It starts that pie gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So if I'm out there seeking it, I'm probably one of only a few. And I know what I'm looking for. It's not like, one of our wives, for instance, are on there, looking for something that interests them respectively. And then they happen to cross that and go, wow, you know what? I think this would be a good purchase, either for themselves or for us. You know what I mean? You don't need to offer me additional information that I already know when you're talking about something that has such a finite market to begin with.
That's kind of my opinion. It's like you already know that, for example, Twins fans are going to know that Kirby Puckett passed away in 2006.
Sure.
You don't need to have that in your listing for the 1991 team set ball, the 1987 team signed ball.
Sure. That's the thing. Yeah, you're talking about baseball fans. Then you're talking about Twins fans. Then you're talking about Kirby Puckett fans. Then, or memorabilia collectors and so on and so forth. If you're typing in, 1991 Minnesota Twins World Series autographed baseball, that's extremely specific. You're going to know which members of that team have passed away. And honestly, you don't care. You don't care whether or not Puckett. I mean, you do separate the two thoughts, basically. You care from a personal standpoint, from a baseball fan. Puckett was a great player to watch. But you don't need that information. That's not why you're seeking it, most likely.
It's not going to make you buy it. That's not going to make you buy it anymore.
Yeah, or less, anymore or less. Not going to make. That's not your deciding factor.
Well, yeah. Well, fellas, I think we've hit a little over an hour tonight on our first cast here, and I want to say thank you for your time. Why don't you mention where we can find you so people can follow you and hear your thoughts every day, all day.
Go ahead, Stefan.
I guess, sure. So I'm on Twitter at Junkwax Twins mostly. As well, I'm on Twitch under this one, Twitches, playing some retro games, playing a little bit of PC, but mostly a lot of Nintendo and Super Nintendo.
You can find me at Our Trading Cards. That's OUR Trading Cards on Twitter. And then, of course, now you can also find all three of us at About the Cards on Twitter. So if you have any specific needs or wants, any questions, we're always happy to help.
Or
Yeah, definitely.
Something.
Yeah, definitely. You can always find me at Big Shep79 on Twitter, and Big Shep's Cards on Instagram, which I haven't been super active in recently, but I'm going to start doing more. I kind of created my own little website this year, and mostly it's just for my personal use when I'm out hunting for sets. But it lists sets I'm building, players I'm collecting, cards I'm looking for. Soon I'm gonna actually add some more writing to it as I try to make some more time in my day. Which is harder and harder with a little one in the house now. I found you have less personal time, but I am going to try to make some time to write because I do enjoy sharing my thoughts. This is an easy and quicker way to do that, and I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. I think that we all have a pretty good perspective on what it is, and we have a lot of good ideas, and we found each other in a common space, and I hope that we can share what we've learned and what we know with others, and hope to encourage them, and hopefully one day have them join us or do some more interaction with us. But I do appreciate it, fellas, and we'll do it again real soon.
Sounds good, guys.
Have a good one.
Hope to see you guys soon.
All righty.